Well, for tonight's speech, I would like to give you a little introduction. And basically, I think it was about a week ago or so, I had a pleasure to speak with a friend of mine. And while we were conversing, it was a snowstorm, so it was an opportunity for me to make a poke at a certain Fox commentator, specifically Glenn Beck. So I made this impression to my friend. I was like, I wish Barack Obama would resign because his policy made this snowstorm and his reaction to the storm is completely unacceptable. But to be fair, I also mentioned Keith Olbermann in the impression too. And I said he must resign. So, but that friend of mine, he told me, Alex, okay, you made this joke, but what do you know about Glenn Beck's policy? What do you really know about that? And I started to think about it. What do I really know about Glenn Beck's policy? Probably not that much. I look at him just to kind of make fun of his, almost crying presentation. I mean, there is more to that, than simply, this. And the next step would be to think of a presenter. Say, for instance, Ann Coulter would be here today. Just try to imagine that. What kind of a storm would be in the new school if Ann Coulter showed up? I can see a protest, I can see Molotov cocktails, I can see God knows what. And what do we really know about her message? Not that much, probably. I do not know so much about her message. And what if Tom Reed showed up in the new school? What would happen? We all know what happened when Tom Reed showed up. He was heckled by some radicals, and he wasn't even allowed the chance to give out his message. Even though he's a knowledgeable guy, he's been in the government, he had a first-hand experience handling Homeland Security. Don't you want to learn from this guy as opposed to heckle him? I mean, if I was there, I would probably be one of these people who tried to toss those people away, who heckled them, but I wasn't there, my fault. Anyway, now, the topic of my speech is actually how I want to talk how personality masks the message. Very often, we just look, at somebody's personality presentation and we do not realize that their message has very interesting and powerful ideas. And specifically, in the spirit of new school, openness and cooperation, I want to talk about conservative message. To start with, how many of you have watched Free to Choose, biography by, it's a movie and lectures by Milton Friedman. Please raise your hands, who've seen it? One person, very good, I'm proud to you. Now, how many people have read Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman? One person, very good, very nice. Who has heard of a conservative approach to poverty and social issues? Who has been exposed to conservative approaches in your opinion? Raise your hands. In general, yes. A little bit better. I mean, it's encouraging. So, now I want to kind of give a few snippets of conservative ideas, how they work and how they could really provide some solutions. Well, let's see. One of the first conservative ideas I want to touch upon is complexity of social issues. A lot of people in the liberal side, they think we can throw money into a problem and it's going to disappear. They do not realize how amazingly complex certain social issues are. And also, when we throw money into the problems, we do not realize that what is the effect of those, programs? Do they really make a difference? Do they really provide the expected results? I mean, in my program evaluation class, we often find out that in reality, these programs are ineffective. And you still keep throwing money in them. So one conservative idea is to look at the merit and evaluate the merit of the problem before trying to throw money in order to handle that problem. That's number one. Number two, it's a very tricky concept, but a lot of people are tricking the system. A lot of people are actually using the system in order to gain their own goals. They are trying to kind of trick the system. They're saying, you know what, I beat this woman, but it's because I'm using drugs. It's not my fault, it's drugs' fault. I quit the job, I cannot hold a steady job because of alcohol, but sometimes you make the choice, sometimes you make the stand. And as a matter of fact, I brought with me a book by Dr. Theodore Dalrymple. And he's been an ER doctor in the slums for more than 25 years. He describes a lot of anecdotes and a lot of ideas in details, how people are themselves making very poor and very bad choices. So it is something that conservatives often, think about and often indicate that, it's not just the society who has to do something for people. People themselves have to do something to help themselves. And often, liberals are putting out there, money will hire more social workers, will hire more teachers, will hire more somebody, and they're going to solve the problems. Perhaps the solution could be to empower the people themselves, provide them with more opportunities. And that's not a conservative idea. Next, I want to talk a little bit about tax cuts. And one of the first lessons I've learned in my basic economics class was the fact that if you break the window, it's going to generate jobs for people to come in and fix that window. That means that, once that happens, you have a multiplier effect and you have more and more and more jobs and opportunities. And that's kind of the idea behind the stimulus. But on the other hand, if you give those resources to people who instead of fixing the window, can spend it on other goods and items, in that case, these people might do way more for themselves and for society. And by doing so, will improve well-being much more than society would. So the tax cuts, in a way, are exactly, giving people those power. Every week you can get more money if it's a properly structured tax cut. You do not have to wait until tax return for that. All right. And another thing is, when the government tries to do these programs, you do not realize how wasteful government employees are. I personally call them, I call them least and the dimmest, as opposed to best and the brightest. Because I think, very often government service does attract least and the dimmest people who spend hours drinking coffee and they spend days complaining how overworked they are and they really don't do much. So do you really want these people to fix your life, or do you want to yourself look for the opportunities to fix your own life? So, I'm at the red button, so I guess I gotta stop. I still have a few topics I want to cover. But anyway, in conclusion, guys, I want you to be more open-minded. I want you to look at the conservative thinking, because you're missing a lot. There is a lot of beautiful and insightful programs. One idea, please read Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman. That's a beautiful, very easy to read book. And finally, I brought some printouts from Thomas Sowell. Please, I'll leave them here. Take them. It's a very easy reading. This guy has a beautiful mind, beautiful English, and reading him is a very great way to learn about conservative ideas. Thank you very much.